Hello, thank you guys for clicking this video today. This is the Cardano Aura. I think we're on episode 13 now. I'm really excited for this one. Today I have Alessandro with me. We're going to be talking about NFTs on Cardano. It's something new to Cardano because of the Merry hard fork that we just had, I guess 2 months ago now. So I'm really excited to get into this, but before we do, if you guys want to support this channel, the best way you can do so is just by clicking the like button, clicking the notification bell, clicking all, and then also leaving a comment down below to feed the algorithm. I also have Bloom. We have Bloom through Bloom 6. We actually minted the 8th ever block on top of the Cardano blockchain, so we've been here from the beginning and we'll be here till year end. But I'm really excited to jump into this podcast today with Alessandro. You go ahead and introduce yourself, man. How are you doing today?
Sure. Hey, thanks for having me, Pei. I'm Alessandro. I'm a computer science student. I'm from Germany. I'm currently doing my bachelor's degree. And yeah, I basically joined the cryptocurrency space back in 2018. Got into Bitcoin first, then into Ethereum, got into developing smart contracts on Ethereum. And yeah, I also discovered then the NFT space, these ERC-721 contracts and all this kind of stuff. Later on, I got into Cardano and I saw huge advantages over Ethereum. And this was the time where I committed myself more to Cardano than any other blockchain. And I started out my first stake pool called the Berry Pool. It's probably the first one on Raspberry Pis. And later on in September or October of 2020, I started Spacebudz, and I'm one of the two co-founders, and I'm basically the developer or brain behind this whole operation.
That's awesome, man. So you actually run a node on top of a Raspberry Pi. Curious about that for a second. What are the specs on that? Is it a Rock Pi or is it?
No, it's Raspberry Pi, but it's actually very underrated. It has actually 8 GB of RAM, and it has a
Okay.
quad-core processor, so it easily handles the Cardano node
hmm
actually.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. So, what is Spacebudz? And also, first before that, what is an NFT for someone who's never heard about it before?
Sure. So an NFT is basically um, a token which represents ownership of something. It can be anything, like it can be art in case of Spacebudz. It can be ownership over real estate or any kind of property. And Spacebudz specifically is like an art platform. And and the Spacebuds are like little astronauts, and there are 10,000 of them out there. They're all unique, and they are computer generated. And uh, for each Spacebud, there's one token on the blockchain, and this token basically represents ownership. And I can control it. So this you really own this piece of art in form of a token, basically.
That's awesome. So how is the token actually attached to the artwork?
So Cardano allows me basically to attach metadata onto the blockchain. So on one side you have the token, and on the other side you have metadata. And metadata and the token both live on the chain. They are linked together. So when you want to verify what's behind this token, actually, you check it on the chain, and you see, okay, there's some stuff in it, like a link to an image, a name, some. In case of Spacebuds, there are some special things like, okay, this little Spacebud has a belt, it has some
The
glasses or stuff
gadgets.
like this.
Yeah.
Exactly, the gadgets, yeah.
Yeah. So I was actually looking at that, and is the metadata attached to the token itself, or is it attached to the initial transaction where it's being sent?
Yes, it's actually attached to the minting transaction. So when you think of, okay, actually you can append metadata to any transaction, but then the question is, okay, how do I verify the correct one? The correct one is the one that is in the mint transaction, because only the one who owns the policy, or as long as the policy allows you to, can mint tokens and attach metadata to this minting transaction. So when you want to verify the metadata, you simply go to the mint transaction. This is where you find the correct one.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, because I actually looked at the metadata for the minting transactions, and It's pretty simple how it works. Within the metadata, you can just include a JSON file. And if you've never used a JSON file before, it's just a way of storing data, right? And the way I looked at it was just a simple JSON file where it would say gadgets, and then it would also say the number of the NFT that it was, and then it would list the gadgets in kind of like a hash list, if you guys have ever heard of a hash before. So that's pretty cool. So my next question is, how are they algorithmically generated? Do you just essentially write like a formula of sort to start and then have them just generate from that? Because that's really the interesting part of it, because it kind of, in the initial... so there was an initial pre-sale for this, and if you guys want, if we miss any information, make sure you check out my video earlier this week. It was kind of the story of Spacebudz, and also how to buy and trade using their Discord, which we'll get a little bit into that later. But it was kind of, it almost felt like mining. You get on the site, it's a pre-sale site, and you send 10 ADA in, and then you get an algorithmically generated NFT back from doing that, right? So that's one of the really cool aspects of it. Is you're sending the 10 ADA in, you're paying the fee, and then you get a random NFT back. So it's almost like mining. So what kind of the algorithm? Can you explain that a little bit more?
These tokens were already let's say pre-created. So I had the list already predefined. The images were also predefined, and the metadata as well. When you just bought, you basically got assigned a random one, but it was not randomly generated on the fly. But how I set them together was we had a designer, and he was basically creating these parts. He was creating the hat, the suit, the boots, but it was all separated. What I did was I put them all together, but I wanted to make it a little bit more exciting, not like saying, okay, we make it systematically, like we want to have 5 with this, 5 with that. So I just said, okay, when I have a certain distribution, and of course the dinos are the most rarest, I was like, okay, we have to make something more rare and something more often. And then I basically created them all beforehand, and then I put them on sale. It was not like that you created them on the fly. That would be definitely also a cool feature. But this is not how it worked.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like in a way, well, you kind of had to create them on a fly in a way, right? When you algorithmically generated 10,000 of them, right? And like the actual random aspect is for the person purchasing it. You know what I mean? So I think either way, it's still awesome because it was randomly generated at first, and then you're purchasing it, and then you're getting a random one from that, which is really cool.
Yeah. What was generated on the fly was the token, and this was, of course, possible because of the great tech of Cardano, because didn't have to make all the tokens or had to create them all beforehand. I could simply create them in the mint transaction. So, or at least, or I could mint a token and then send it directly to the one who paid for it. So I didn't had to have them in a wallet beforehand and then send them out. I could create them in the mint transaction, basically.
It's really cool. And so were you expecting it to do, as well as it did? So for people that haven't really been paying attention to this, the pre-sale started, and as I mentioned earlier, it started off at 10 ADA, and then after 10% sold, it would increase the price to 20 ADA, and then each 10% would increase it by 10 ADA, and there were 10,000 of these NFTs total, and they were all sold out in, I think, 2 days, right?
It was 3 days, but this was still like
yeah,
insane.
3 days is still pretty quick.
It was insane, and actually, I'm not sure if you're aware of these policies. So I want to make sure that these these tokens actually stay at supply 1. And what I did was I used this time-based policy, but I set it to 5 months from now. So until then, you somehow have to rely a little bit on me, because I didn't expect to sell out so quickly. It was like, okay, maybe it takes a couple months, but maybe we don't even sell out at all. And that's why I set it to 5 months. But yeah, it sold out in 3 days, and this was extremely crazy.
Yeah. Because I mean, I actually personally looked at them one day, and I saw them for 30, and I woke up the next morning and they were going for 90. I was like, that they sold so much faster than I thought, because when you see something like that, you expect it to be for a few weeks, and I was just going to watch it for a little bit. So I wanted to touch on that minting policy a little bit more. So like when you said it, like how does that work? Like the 5 months thing. Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I know when you mint a
Sure,
token, you essentially meant like a period of time. But what are you essentially stating when you say 5 months?
sure. So the minting policy basically defines certain conditions, who, how, and what can be minted, basically. So what I said, or so to say this, what is possible now is you can make simple scripts. You can say like, okay, the one who has this key can mint. And then the hash of the script is basically the minting policy, this number. And what you can also do is have this time-based policy. So you can say only the one who has this key, and if he mints before this certain slot, he can mint. Afterwards, the minting policy is invalid. No one can mint forever. So everything after these 5 months, everything is
Oh,
set in
okay.
stone forever. This is the idea. That's why I say these are NFTs. And initially, I was also a little bit, or people were skeptic. They were saying like, these are no NFTs, and called it a scam because maybe I was not completely open about it, or it was not so obvious on the website. I definitely linked it. Maybe people didn't find it, and that's why they were a little bit skeptic first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. So you essentially, when you're creating the policy that allows you to mint the NFTs, you have a 5 month window that you set to be able to
Yes.
mint or burn the tokens. And then once the 5 months is over, you no longer have access. But like you said earlier, you initially thought that they weren't going to sell in 3 days. So
Yeah.
you had that set at 5 months. That's cool.
Yeah, I wanted to have some threshold and didn't want to have to pressure like, okay, I have to get them out there.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that makes perfect sense. What NFTs haven't been minted yet? You know, when you get on the website, it says 9,970. What's left?
I think if I say this now, I get a lot of DMs, but and these are SPO Spacebudz, and I wanna give something back to the community or to pools which are basically had been supporting me or had been for a long time in the space, and yeah, I wanna give something back to them.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool. Yeah, someone actually messaged me that. They're like, "Oh, there's 30 missing for the SPOs." I'm like, "Oh, that's such a cool idea." You know, it really I don't know, it's just to me that because it's Cardano, you know, and it also it's special to me because you know, you were here in September. You know, you had your own pool, you're doing something special niche with the Raspberry Pi. And it, what I like is that, you know, you have been here for Cardano and you're giving back to the initial SBOs and you're not just, you see that, oh, there's this other blockchain with low fees and, oh, there's not been an NFT on there before. And you're kind of just coming in for a cash grab. And that's the exact opposite of what you're doing. And the SBO thing made me really realize that, you know, so I think that's awesome, man. That's cool.
Cool, yeah.
When are those going to go out? Just curious.
I'm still missing a few, but what I can say is I actually want to include IOHK and Uroi or Emergo, but I want to have Uroi as a logo. But I didn't get any reply yet because I don't want to just take the logo and put it on. Not that it is something that they don't want to have. Let's see. But
Yeah.
I'm just missing a few, but I hopefully can get them out next week.
Damn, that's a lot quicker than I thought. Next week?
Yeah.
That's pretty hype, man. That's pretty hype. So, is this it for Spacebudz? This 10,000? Will there ever be, you know, a different drop or a different iteration or something that, you know, adds to it?
Maybe later on, but for now it was really just getting these tokens out and then yeah, enabling trading with smart contracts. This was basically the idea. I didn't want to make it too complicated, though this was already some work for it. Getting out these tokens and then enabling trading. And yeah, maybe on we build something on top. I got a lot of other requests as well. So people are hyped. They want to see something, but I don't want to make it like too sketchy. Maybe it could mess it up.
Yeah, I know what you mean too. And there's something nice about the simplicity. So that's really the next big step for you is trading.
Yeah.
So are you just going to be like on the Spacebudz.io site, that's where the trading is obviously going to be happening. You can see it on there, and nice job on the site.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I've always been very skeptical about NFTs in general. I've seen other NFTs built on Cardano. I've seen some NFTs on ETH, but I really do think your idea with Spacebudz, it all came together, man. It was almost genius, and the way the site looks, the way you purchase it and the rocket ship and all of it was just so good, man. So I'm excited to see the trading on the site. Do you expect, it to grow from just trading Spacebudz? Do you expect, because you have, the user base, do you think that you'll eventually move towards, a marketplace for other NFTs, or do you think you'll keep it specifically Spacebudz focused?
So yeah, so the Spacebudz project itself will stay as it is. So that's the idea. But maybe I will launch some other projects, but people will know me, so they know, okay, this will be a legit project as well. Maybe I will do something like that, but not sure yet, actually.
Yeah. I was just curious, because when you have the ability to trade NFTs back and forth, you have the ability to list them. You essentially
Sure.
build out the whole functionality to be able to trade NFTs back and forth. It's like, will you add
Yeah.
more? And that takes me to my next part. If you guys missed my video earlier this week, they actually built a Discord server, because right now we don't actually have smart contracts on Cardano, and smart contracts are really important specifically for NFTs, because you can trade things in a trustless way. If I have an NFT and you're willing to pay 500 ADA for it, we can essentially both say, we can sign the contract that says you're willing to pay 500 and I'm willing to send you this NFT. We both sign the contract, and then at the same time the ADA is swapped and the NFT swapped. So it allows the ability to trade things in a trustless way. But we don't have that right now yet. We're waiting on Plutus. We're waiting on a lot more contracts to come to Cardano. So there had to be a way to trade these Spacebudz back and forth now that they're out. So what Alessandro did was actually created a Discord server that allows people to use escrow services. They just yesterday actually added an auction service where you can actually auction these Spacebudz. And what the escrow service is, it's somebody else on the Discord that it acts as a middleman, as an escrow your Roy wallet. And they'll get the funds and the NFT from both parties. And they'll make sure that the NFT, the policy ID is correct, and then they'll also make sure the funds are there. And then once both parties agree, then they'll swap it back and forth. So that was really cool, and that was a good idea. And I'm curious on, where did that come from? Have you seen that like on ETH projects? Essentially the frontier of escrow services and stuff to really bring this over to Cardano.
I just want to clarify this. I didn't came up with this. I did not came up with this idea. So it just people just built that on their own. So some community members. When I was still busy with the sale, I did not have any time for anything in this time frame. But then people were reaching out to me and were saying like, "Hey, can we have this and can we have that and can we do this?" I was saying like, okay, here are some tools, and then they were building out Discord and were building these escrow things, and I didn't even know that this is possible. It was just crazy to see, but I'm actually not involved in it.
You're not? Dude,
No.
that's crazy. Dude, that's like I was sitting there looking at
Yeah.
this go because I have my own Discord server, and I'm really the only person that manages it. I have a couple people that help me, answer questions and stuff. Um, and they put a lot of work into that Discord server. There's a guy that's
Yeah.
literally writing bots on command. Like yesterday, he was writing the auction bot, and he messaged me. He's like, "Hey, can you make a video on how to use this auction bot?" He's like, "I'm working on this." I'm like, this dude's in here writing Discord bots specifically for Spacebudz, and I'm just like, I'm sitting there thinking about you. I'm like, where did he find all these people? That's crazy, man.
They were just all coming out to me and reaching out to me, and we're like, okay, we want to build something. And there is also this analytics tool. Maybe I've seen it. Like it lists all gadgets, and I actually wanted to include it very soon on the website, on my own. I didn't have time yet. They were just looking everything up on the internet, what is out there on space, but they found my repository and they completely took everything from it and yeah, just listed everything. It was really cool to see.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
actually talking to a couple of them, and a lot of them are actually from ETH NFT projects,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
so interesting to
Yes.
me.
So my co-founder, maybe you know him, Zeke. His name is Zeke from Discord, maybe.
I think I've talked to him a couple times.
And he has some NFT projects on Ethereum, and that's how we basically came to Spacebudz, because he was uh, initially reaching out to me and was asking me if I can build Spacebudz on Ethereum, and I was like, no, I don't build on Ethereum anymore. I do it on Cardano. Well, anyway, and he has a huge user base on Ethereum, and he was getting all of them over. Then these guys were buying initially like crazy.
So do you see this as a way to bring a lot of people over from Ethereum to Cardano? Is the NFT space?
Think so, actually, because NFTs are really in the trend at the moment, especially on Ethereum. And I think there are people on Ethereum who they don't care about if they are on Ethereum or any other blockchain, just want to have NFTs. And if they can get it cheaper and better, they will probably move on to Cardano.
Yeah, yeah, and that's my experience because I've really dove deep into the Spacebudz Discord community. Trading back and forth. Buying my own and talking to a lot of people in there. And I've had people reach out to me and say, "Hey, man, I want to buy this bud off of you." And they're like, "What wallet do I even use? Do I use Daedalus or Yoroi? I'm coming from Ethereum. I've never even used a Yoroi or a Daedalus wallet. Yet here I am trying to buy this Spacebud from you." And
Yeah.
that's when it made it. That's kind of when it clicked for me. I'm like, "Damn, this is like a real use case on top of Cardano." And Chris, he's the guy who actually offered 50K for the dyno with the special background, and he essentially called this. People kept asking them, like, "Why are you crazy? Why are you saying that you're going to invest all this money in these Spacebuds?" And he says it's because it's the first real commercial venture built on top of Cardano that really uses a lot of different aspects of Cardano and that was successful with the pre-sale. So I think it's really cool, man. Just
Yeah.
having a use case, because on Ethereum right now, it's like $50, to do a transaction. And oftentimes it takes a lot of time for the transaction to even go through. And it's pretty damn annoying. I interact with the blockchain a lot, and so have you, clearly. So on Ethereum, can you imagine minting 10,000 different tokens in the same way that you would on Cardano? Is it, because at least on Cardano, it's a transaction per token, So I could not imagine doing that on Ethereum.
Probably not. Well, the user itself would pay so much money and also would have probably waited for quite some time. And it's very undeterministic. It's not like, okay, you always wait like 20, 30 seconds for the transaction. Could happen once, but then it could be the next moment, okay, now you have to wait for an hour. And it's not a very good user experience. But on Cardano, like how I did it, I knew, okay, the transactions will probably take max 40 seconds. And people were pretty happy. I mean, they paid and they got almost instantly back a token.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
mean,
it really feels like 20 to 30 seconds, for each transaction. And
yeah,
if I'm doing like Stakepool work, and I have to run like 6 transactions, it's very important that it only takes 20 to 30 seconds for me to verify that transaction went through, from a working perspective. And that's what, a lot of developers are going to be doing on Cardano is, when you're working with the blockchain, you're completing a transaction and then you're checking to make sure the transaction went through, and then you complete the next transaction, because you have to essentially wait for UTXO, to be done with the previous transaction for it to calculate the fees for the next one. So just in terms of like usability from the developer side, Cardano's killing it there with the transaction times and the fees. And then also from the user side, trading these back and forth. If I'm doing a trade with somebody, if I'm doing the escrow with somebody, I can send them the ADA, they can send the NFT, and the person using the escrow can verify that in 30 seconds. Or when the future comes and we have smart contracts, then when you send it to a smart contract, then it's going to be done in 30 seconds, or I guess it would probably be like 40 to 60 for the smart contract to then verify, and then it sends out. So yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy to actually see, you know, being in Cardano for years and always talking about what Cardano could do better than Ethereum. You know, it's nice to actually see a real use case right now that people are interacting with, that people are building a community around. And you didn't even have to ask them to build the Discord community, you know, because that real use case is there.
Yeah, it's just crazy what happened in the last week, or yeah, last week, 1 week. It's like I was like, okay, I just want to launch something cool on Cardano. Maybe it works. Maybe people like it. It just got so much hype and so much people reached out and all like, okay, I want to do that. I want to do this. People created these videos of showing their collection and doing all this kind of stuff, and yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. The same thing happened to me. You know, when I actually started Bloom, me and my partner were talking, and the K was at 150, and our goal was we just want one pool to be in 150, you know, for the first couple of weeks, and be able to cover our costs, you know, and it just turned out much better than I expected. And the Cardano community is very welcoming to, you know, people that just want to build and add value, and you know, that's exactly what you did, you know, so it's cool, man. It's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I was looking. I have one really. It's IPVS and Weaver. How does that work?
Are we?
Yeah, Arcweaver. So you're using both of those to actually attach the tokens to in the metadata. What is that? Is that just like a database for the tokens themselves?
So Arweave is basically a permanent storage solution, and so, so we use IPFS and Arweave, but IPFS is actually our primary source because I know more about IPFS and Arweave, but Arweave claims to be really permanent, while IPFS is not necessarily, because if data is not used very often, there is a chance that it can get lost and you can't retrieve it anymore. But on Arweave, it is claimed it's permanent forever because it somehow works with like mining. You put data in a block and then it gets mined and it stays there forever. And these miners are somewhere incentivized to keep the data. But I was also not really aware of this tech. I think it was just 1 or 2 weeks before we made the sale. We were like, okay, we just go with the backup solution. So we have both, but we go IPFS primary. We just try to really make it as decentralized as possible, even though I don't know too much about Arweave. But that's a nice backup. We just try to not, so people shouldn't rely too much on us. So even if my platform is going down, you still can retrieve the images.
That's
and
very
all that,
logical.
anything else.
Yeah, because that's kind of the FUD that I have seen spread about Spacebudz and about the other NFTs is it's always, well, IPFS is not going to be around for more than 10 years. You know, that's what I keep reading over and over again for the NFT fudders.
Yeah, but for example, I'm not sure if you know the Blockfrost API. Stakepool. He's the one
Oh yeah, I
who's
know of him.
behind. Yeah, he's the one, and his team is behind this Blockfrost API, and they're basically now pinning all IPFS links which are in the metadata on the Cardano blockchain. They're pinning it to their own nodes. So more people are doing this. IPFS is also a very good solution. I mean, now we have like, I think it's on 2 or 3 nodes in total, all the Spacebudz. I mean, yeah, it's pretty decentralized already.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there, when smart contracts come and there's actually more functionality, you know, to these tokens, do you think that there will ever be a time where people have to, you know, send their Spacebudz to a smart contract to get some sort of upgraded token back? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I did. But one problem is that when the minting policy is running out, and this is the one limitation I have, I can't burn the old token. This is the limitation I had. But of course, I had been thinking about, okay, it would be cool. Maybe we can wrap the old token into something new and create something new out of it. But maybe we don't even have to burn the old token and just extend it, and or maybe you can make it like an airdrop and say, okay, if you
Hmm.
have been having a Spacebudz since time frame, you can claim this and this. Yeah, I've been thinking about this also. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was my thoughts too. Because when Mary came out, um, it's the same thing with Shelley. When Shelley came out, there was things that we were missing. Multi-delegation. We were missing peer-to-peer. We were missing a lot of these things that felt very important, that felt very necessary for the chain to operate as we would all like it to be. And I really think that the same thing is happening with Goguen, specifically Mary. And I think that we're going to maybe even have more utility specifically with tokens after Plutus comes out. And I think that there's going to be these iterations, over the next couple years that adds more utility to these tokens. And maybe there will, a year from now, be a better way to attach, the photos to the tokens themselves. So I was very curious about that.
Well, actually, you have to see like there's a real separation between contracts and tokens. The tokens you create now don't change in the future, or if you have smart contracts, they're still the same tokens you create, even
Yeah.
if they come out of a smart contract. But a smart contract itself doesn't hold any state. It won't hold any metadata or stuff like this. So the approach we're taking now is probably already a good solution. I don't think even if Plutus is coming, there's only other approaches because it's not Ethereum. It's really like tokens are native. And it's working differently. It's don't hold state inside of a contract on Cardano. It's really a true separation between tokens and contracts. Contracts are here to um, basically, in case of Spacebudz, for example, contract is here to make the swap, but it's not here to hold the state or anything. It's really just to, okay, I take two of the native tokens or native tokens and ADA, and the smart contract is really just a middleman. Just then you can swap it, and the contract closes. Then you can open up another contract and make another swap. It's not like on Ethereum, where you have one big contract and it keeps track of everything.
Yeah, that's very insightful. And speaking of about them being native, they're it's really called Cardano Native Asset Standard. When they compare it to ERC 20 or the NFT standard, and if you think about it in that way, upgrades to native tokens, should just be in addition to the native tokens that already exist, right? As smart contracts come, there shouldn't be more utility to native tokens. There should just be, more utility on the chain, and then obviously the native tokens have more utility because of the smart contracts themselves.
Yeah, what you can do with smart contracts is that you can make these, you can make really fancy minting policies. You can really say like, I want to have something like I don't know, really. If I mint this token now, I won't be able to mint this one again. You can increment, for example, an ID and then say, okay, now I mint the next one. And then it increments again, and then I mint the next one. But what is coming out there are just, again, some native tokens with a policy and a name. But the smart contract itself just defines how these tokens are coming out. It's not like that the contract itself is holding the tokens. It's just defining, it's just a more you can just make more fancy policies basically with contracts.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very interested in when smart contracts come out and seeing all the utility they provide. So, before we close out of here, how has this changed, your perspective on things? You're a college student, and you just had this success on top of a blockchain, and you're obviously developing a lot of blockchain knowledge. Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now after this experience?
Well, in 5 years, I don't know yet, but probably I'm still around in the blockchain space. It's interesting, but yeah, it changed a lot for me. What just happened recently, and I mean, I'm also into Cardano since it was 3 cents. So this also changed a little bit for me as well. Um, but yeah, I'm very grateful for what happened, and yeah, in 5 years, I don't know.
Yeah, 5 years is
We
a
are still
long
here.
time in the blockchain space.
Yeah, but what I can say is my next goal is now I want to finish this platform. I want to get trading out. This was like a personal challenge for me as well. I wanted to build a full product on Cardano and see if I can master this.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Where can people find you? Twitter?
Twitter, Telegram. Yeah, I'm Barry Alice. Barry underscore ILES.
Is Barry Pool
Very cool. Yeah.
running on a
Very cool.
Raspberry
My
Pi?
website is yeah. My website is piepool.online. I probably need to get a different domain, but it was my first one.
Awesome. And then for anyone else who, made it to the end of this podcast and you have not, participated in anything Spacebudz, the website is Spacebudz with a Z at the end, .io. And then from that website, you can get a link to their Discord server where the, buying and selling is happening from the third party. And then also their Twitter and everything else Spacebudz. You can also view all of the Spacebudz in existence. But if you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, feel free to join my Discord server down below. I will also have the links for this down below and then the links to his accounts, of course. And just put your questions in the comments down below and on the Discord server. I know this stuff is pretty new, specifically to Cardano. So if you guys have any questions about it, let's educate. But I appreciate you coming on so much, man. It's been a fun time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Hell yeah. I hope you guys all have a good rest of your week. I think I'll be posting this on Tuesday. So see you guys.